Carley Fortune, welcome to the Word Weaver podcast.
Hi, thank you for
Hello.
having me.
To me, you are quite honestly the Taylor Swift of the literary world. Can we talk about that for a second? You're fresh off of a global book tour, 4 books in 4 years. You exchange friendship bracelets. Your readers call themselves the Fortunates. And you can rock a red lip like nobody's business. Wild, kind of seeing the trajectory and so amazing. Welcome to the Word Weaver podcast, a literary place in cyberspace where I share tangible tips, tricks, and words of wisdom to help you achieve your dream of writing a book. I'm your host, Louise Johnson, a writer and the author of Behind the Red Door. Let's dive into today's chapter. I am so excited to introduce today's guest. Carley Fortune is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Every Summer After, Meet Me at the Lake, This Summer Will Be Different, and the forthcoming One Golden Summer. Her books have sold more than 2 million copies worldwide, and her books have been translated into 30 languages in over 50 territories. Carley is an award-winning journalist and holds a Bachelor of Journalism from Toronto Metropolitan University. She has worked as an editor at some of Canada's top publications, including the Globe and Mail, Chatelaine, Toronto Life, and the much-beloved but now defunct weekly paper, The Grid. And most recently, before becoming a #1 New York Times bestselling author, she was the executive editor of Refinery 29 Canada. Carley spent her young life in the suburbs of Sydney, Australia, and Barry's Bay, a tiny lakeside town in Ontario, and the setting for Every Summer After, as well as One Golden Summer. She now lives in Toronto with her husband and 2 sons. Carley Fortune, welcome to the Word Weaver podcast.
Hi, thank you for
Hello.
having me.
Well, first, I want to thank you because you are a catalyst for the resurrection of this podcast. It was on hiatus for over 3 years, and you nudged me at a book launch event, which sounds like a
Yeah.
name droppy, but we were at Jenny Jackson's Pineapple Street book launch, and you said, I think you should start it up again. And I was hemming and hawing, but I decided to start it finally. I really want to credit you because right now I'm in the newborn fog, and this is my only
Oh,
form of adult conversation. And it's
yeah.
what's keeping me tethered to my identity as a writer is just getting to talk shop with other authors. So thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Well, it's funny that you're talking about being a new parent and that fog, because when I started listening to your podcast, I had just had my second child. So I was also in that kind of like postpartum fog, and listening to podcasts was one of the ways that I stayed connected with writing.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
was it your first book you launched after the birth of your second child?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I don't know how you did that.
I was pregnant while I was writing Every Summer After, and then the baby was born just after we sent the book to edits, to copy edit.
Wow. Knowing what I
Yes.
know now, if you had told me that before I had the baby, I would be like, wow, that's amazing. But I wouldn't have really understood. Now I get it on a different level.
Yeah, parenting is one of those funny things. Like you have to be in it to really get what it's like.
Yeah. And you were so open, which I personally really appreciate about postpartum anxiety.
Yeah.
Behind the
It,
scenes I'm dealing with, it looks kind of like I've got myself together, but even
oh, I'm
just,
sorry. It's so rough. It's such a rough thing on top of becoming a parent. And yeah, I'm sorry that you're going through that.
oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very excited. Like I said, this is kind of my treat to myself today is getting to chat with you. To me, you are quite honestly the Taylor Swift of the literary world. Can we talk about that for a second? You're fresh off of a global book tour, 4 books in 4 years. You exchange friendship bracelets. Your readers call themselves the Fortunates, and you can rock a red lip like nobody's business. Wild, kind of seeing the trajectory and so amazing. So I have two questions. First, what does it feel like kind
Okay.
of being a rock star on tour? What is the best part? Is it the hotel slippers? What is it? And then the second part is more about coming home after tour and expending all of that energy. Are you energized and buzzing off of tour and you want to be kind of your extrovert self, or do you want to slip into long stretches of solitude and writing in your writing cave?
Oh, that's a really good question. Definitely my favorite part of tour is meeting readers. Writing is such a isolated experience, and I tend to forget that there are readers on the other side of what I'm doing, even though, I'm fairly active on social media on Instagram and I'm connecting with readers there. But I do forget the kind of impact that the books have had on people until you are talking with readers. And it's such a special, humbling experience to see how my books impact people and how much they love it. And it keeps me grounded in a way and reminds me of what I'm doing at the end of the day. And I do love also getting the chance to get dressed up and put on makeup, because otherwise I'm just sitting at home in my workout clothes. And I used to work in an office, and I loved getting dressed up for events. And so I like doing that, but and I'm extroverted. So I do like being with people, but I find by the I did 3 weeks of touring for The Summer Will Be Different, my most recent book, and they were separate weeks. So there was time in between each leg of the tour, but by each end of the week, I was done. It's a lot of travel and moving around, and I was ready to kind of collapse. And as soon as the third leg of the tour was over, I got sick, which I knew I would. I was like, this is coming. My body is going to just give out on me. And it's this weird thing where you spend all this time alone writing, and then suddenly you're on tour. And my first event, which was in New York, and there were a few hundred people there, I totally blacked out. Like, I was just not used to that experience. And it's the same with coming home, where you have to like turn on this other part of your brain, where I've been doing revisions since I've been back, and that's very detailed, quiet work. So
Mhm.
it is this way you have to kind of throw yourself into these different spaces, but it's fun. It keeps things interesting.
Having to have both of those, I think authors are very talented ambiverts, tapping into the introversion part of themselves and
Yes.
extroversion. But I want to
Yeah.
pause too on your go-to author fits for tour because I loved seeing everything that you wore. That was a question for the rapid fire, but I want to ask now, kind of what is your author style? If you could describe it?
I tend to wear clothes that are more colorful than I would in my previous life. I was an editor in media, and I would not wear so much. Like, I would get dressed up, but I wouldn't wear as much color. So I find I wear a lot of color, a bit more pattern than usual. I'm a magpie, so I like lots of different things. And this time, though, for this tour, I hired a stylist to help me, because
Smart.
I love clothing, but I don't like shopping. And it takes so much time and effort, that I had somebody who helped kind of bring a bunch of clothes to me that I could pick from. And
Yes.
she had a tailor with her, so we could see how things could be altered to fit my body properly. And that was really, really helpful. And I try to buy as much Canadian as possible as well.
You're a big fan of horses.
Yes,
I
I
love
love horses, and I love Smythe. I love Eliza Faulkner. Yeah, there's a lot of great designers here.
it's so fun. Hiring a stylist is part of outsourcing the hard parts of your life. And you're
Yes.
renovating your house right now,
Yeah.
you're writing your next book, you
Yeah.
are a mother of two, you're a wife, a friend, a daughter. And I don't want to ask you the cliched question of how do you balance it all? No one also asks men that question, which I hate. But I am curious, selfishly, and I'm sure readers would like to know too, how do you go about prioritizing everything in your life? Do you outsource things like going shopping? Do you have a strict iCal schedule? color-coded agenda. Like, how do you decide what stays on your plate and what you toss away?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, balance is a tricky word, but I don't think it's a bad question. I think we just need to ask men that question more
True.
too, because I think we're all kind of desperate to find examples of people who have this somewhat figured out. I'm still trying to figure out what it is I can outsource in terms of getting help on the professional side of things, whether that's somebody to help with social media or somebody to help with my emails and scheduling. But at home, my husband and I made the decision last year. He is a teacher, for him to take a sabbatical. And because when he was working while I was writing This Summer Will Be Different, it was just so untenable. My kids were sick all the time and trying to write while they were at home with me because as a teacher, my husband can't take time away from work. It was impossible. And by the spring of that year when I was writing, I really did kind of have a breakdown.
I don't blame
Um,
you.
yeah, and so we're very lucky in that he's been able to take some time away from work. He does drop off and pick up for the kids. He does lunches. He makes dinner. Right now, like he just took our car to get the oil changed. Like, so he really is just crucial to our support. My oldest is in school. My youngest is in daycare. So we have a daycare provider. We have house cleaning once a week. I'm very lucky to be able to do this, but it's just my life it wouldn't be possible to get everything done. And it's still hard. And I think that, I was very driven when I wrote my first book, and I wrote it without all of those things. I had a full-time job. I was a parent. I wrote it between the hours of 5 and 6 a.m. But I don't think I would have been able to keep doing that indefinitely. So I'm very grateful that I can write full time and have some help with the other life parts.
That's so reassuring to hear too of how you handle it all. You have an equal partner at home so that you can handle it professionally. But I'm interested too that you're looking to outsource parts of kind of your social media and your professional life.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
It's smart because, I mean, people don't always realize that when you're an author, it's not just, oh, romantic notions of you sitting behind your desk writing away. There's so many hats that you wear. You're a
Hmm.
brand now. You
Yeah.
have a social media account, a persona to kind of put out into the world. And that I'm really curious actually how you do handle that if you outsource it because it's your own voice and you want to be attached to your newsletter and your Instagram posts and everything. You want it to be authentically you, but you also don't have that time to take away from the writing. Like, how do you think you are managing now that you're quote unquote a public figure with the blue check and all of that? Actually, I think you had that before as a Refinery 29 editor.
Yeah, as an editor, I did.
Now with an audience of almost 80,000 strong on Instagram. But how do you put your public persona out there? Do you feel pressure to curate an image now that there's
Um,
so many eyes on you?
no, I wouldn't say I feel pressure to curate an image. When I started, when I got a book deal, I felt like I could be a partner to my publisher and be active on Instagram. Like I picked one place where I could be active on social media, and for me, that was Instagram. I'm off everything else. And at the time, I was, posting about my upcoming book, and nobody, all of the people who are following me, and I had a few thousand followers were there because of my job as an editor, or their friends and family. And so it felt like yelling into a void. But eventually people found me, and I try to not overthink it. At first I was very diligent about scheduling. I use a Google Calendar, and I put posts on my Google Calendar because otherwise I wouldn't post, because I'm not, as an editor in my previous life, I was much more comfortable being behind the scenes and supporting writers, building their names. And these were journalists. But I did also know, as somebody who had like grown media brands, that it is important, especially now, to have that connection with your audience. And audience is really important to me. And so I kind of forced myself to do it. And I still sometimes feel uncomfortable posting because I just worry that people are going to be sick of me.
Never.
And and so I try to fight that kind of self-consciousness and just be as real as possible while also, I mean, you're there to because you have a product to sell and you have an audience to build a relationship with. But I try to do that in a way that is as real as I possibly can. And so that it does, when I think about getting somebody to help me with that, it becomes tricky because I do want it to be from a genuine place. And the newsletter, I send out about once a month, and it takes me a long time to write. It's definitely several hours for one newsletter.
Really?
And I wouldn't want somebody else to write it. But there's like the back end of like deploying a newsletter, and sometimes it breaks, and also updating the website and putting tour dates on the website. And although there's certain things that I don't need to be doing, I need to like kind of sit down and think like, what are the things that my brain needs to be on, and what are the things that my brain does not need to be on?
Dividing and conquering those little tasks, which isn't a
Yeah.
job in itself to kind of sit down. Well, I love your newsletter, by the way.
Oh, thank
Definitely.
you.
I'm sure your DMs are just flooded. That could be a whole other job, and you feel you want to connect with each reader in your DMs.
Oh, that is not possible.
I know.
It's just not possible. And even sometimes like I will see a DM that I want to respond to, and it's like gone. It just kind of gets lost in there.
I
But
see.
it's just not, if somebody emails me, I'm better at responding. So if somebody
Mhm.
replies to my newsletter with like questions or comments, I'm better at responding there, but it's just not possible on social media. And
Yeah.
I also think, I've had some notes from readers on social media that I'm not sure. I think a lot of times people do not expect you to respond, but also sometimes I think maybe they don't want, like, I think sometimes people, because my books are very emotional, and Meet Me at the Lake in particular deals with some like mental health issues, and people in messaging me have a safe space to share their experiences. And that doesn't sometimes that I don't think necessarily people need a response. They want to like kind of put it out there. I wish I could respond to everyone.
No, no. I think that's a nice way to say it, though. It's kind of your DMs are a place to house those thoughts. They can put it out into the cosmic void, but they don't
Yeah.
always need. And I think you're actually very good at universally posting in your Instagram story or on your feed for general questions that people have, and
Yes, I
then they
try
can
to
all
do
get
that.
answered. Yeah,
I do try to do that. I did struggle like after Every Summer After came out. I really did struggle with keeping up. I felt like I needed to keep up with all of them, and I felt so bad that I couldn't. Like it was something I dealt with my therapist, honestly, because I felt so guilty about not being able to respond to everyone. But
I get it.
yeah, you can't do that. Can't do that.
No, I'm assuming you're similar to me, but we're people pleasers. Like you
Oh
want
yeah.
readers to like you as much
Yes.
as they connect with your book, you want them to connect with you as well. So you don't like disappointing anyone. It's really
No.
hard. I'm also
Yes.
terrible, even just keeping up with my own friends when I'm in a writing wormhole. I don't respond to texts and I feel like racked with guilt. I
Oh
don't respond.
yeah.
I'm really bad at that. Are you a good texter?
I think so. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I am. A little like if there's a numeral like saying that I have something unread, like that will drive me bonkers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fair. But when you're writing, do you have boundaries or rules? You have to put your phone in another room?
Yeah, usually I often put it on do not disturb, so I'm not getting like all the family group chat messages.
Yeah.
I try not to go on social media, and sometimes it's like I have a visual timer that is it's a 60-minute timer, and you can set it for whatever time, and it just kind of shows this red color decreasing, and I'll set it for like if I'm having trouble concentrating, I will set it for 45 minutes, and I can't do anything but work for 45 minutes. I can't look at my phone. I can't look at whatever.
Yeah.
I can't make a snack. And that usually breaks the cycle of like needing to check on something and I often go for much longer than 45 minutes, but that is a tool that has been very, very helpful for me.
The Pomodoro technique, basically,
Yes. Yeah.
which is
Yes.
very helpful. So, kind of delving off of talking about audience and being kind of accountable to readers, you just announced your fourth book, One Golden Summer, the gorgeous cover. I would agree this is probably, if I had to pick a favorite child, my favorite cover yet.
I think so too.
Oh, I
Yeah.
want a print of it. It's so gorgeous. But this is very exciting because it's a return to Barry's Bay. We get to meet the
Yeah.
Florrick brothers again, but now it's from Charlie's point of view. And kind of talking about audience, would you say this was inspired by reader demand? Because everyone was begging after Percy and Sam in Every Summer After for Charlie's story.
Yes and no. When I finished Every Summer After, I immediately started thinking about story about Charlie. I didn't really have a story then, and I'm really glad I didn't write it, but it was in the back of my head before I had a publisher. And then when so many people had reached out either through Instagram or in real life at events and asked for a story for Charlie, then it became something that I really seriously considered. And it felt like when we were discussing when it's time to kind of sign off on a book idea, it's myself, my editor, and my agent in conversation. And when we were talking about my fourth book, to me, it felt like the right time. You know, there are still people who are coming to Every Summer After for the first time, and I didn't want to wait like a super long amount of time before revisiting Barry's Bay and that world. So it just felt right. It felt right, and yeah, I'm really really excited about it.
I'm so excited personally to return to Barry's Bay, which is a very special place in your life too. You grew up, Barry's Bay is a real place in
Yeah,
Ontario, lakeside
yeah,
town, and a sense of setting is crucial to all of your books.
yeah.
You also, I feel like, have a monopoly on the Canadian landscape. You are really introducing
Very big
readers
country to
to
have a
the entire
monopoly
country.
on.
We got to go to BC next, British
Yeah.
Columbia, every single province. But how important is evoking that sense of place for you? Does that kind of come paramount, a cinematic setting in your mind, or do the characters really form first?
The setting has come first with all of my books. I mean, with the exception of One Golden Summer. I mean, I did know it would be Barry's Bay and it would be Charlie, so those things were there. But yeah, all three of my books started with the setting. So, and I do in the back of my head have like I'm always looking for places, and because for me, I really connect with place and I love writing descriptions of nature. And I think it's like when it's done really, really well, it's so beautiful in writing and but it could also go off the rails when things are overly descriptive and you get bored. But place is so important to me. And
Mhm.
so it does really inform the stories in a lot of ways. And it's like pairing the people and the place and the story with This Summer Will Be Different. It started with Prince Edward Island and a girls' trip. It kind of grew from that. So I think it's not a way that most writers work is with starting with setting, but it does help me. And I am a very visual writer. Like I really do see things as I'm writing.
Yeah. And it comes across like it reads so beautifully, kind of cinematically unfolding in your head. I love
Thank
it.
you.
And I think you single-handedly helped the PEI tourism industry this year. Everyone, even
Yeah.
reading it, I was like, I need to order oysters, a lobster roll. I need to book my trip
Yes.
back there. I love PEI too. And you evoked such a delicious sense of place in that book, especially.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted that to be a book you could taste. And
Mm.
it's been very fun to see all the people who have either been looking up Airbnbs there or have literally booked their tickets. I was in Texas and in Houston, and somebody had booked their ticket for Prince Edward Island, and it makes me so, so happy.
So happy. I also love reading the acknowledgments of every book. Sometimes I start with the acknowledgments and then I go through, but you started the acknowledgments off with you wanted fun to be
Mhm.
your big word in writing This Summer Will Be Different.
Mhm.
Coming off of, I know you've mentioned Meet Me at the Lake was probably your most challenging book to write.
Absolutely.
What would you say? And I want to know about both of those. Like, what was it that made This Summer Will Be Different fun? Did you have fun writing One Golden Summer? And what was it that was so much more enjoyable than Meet Me at the Lake? What made that so challenging?
Meeting at the lake was challenging for a number of reasons. One, it was my second book,
Mm.
and I got a book deal very quickly for Every Summer After, and it was a two-book deal. And so in less than a year, I had started a book, finished a book, got an agent, got a book deal, and then also needed another book idea for my second book. So the kind of speed at which I became an author made my head spin. And at the same time that that was all going on, I was pregnant, moving houses. The day that we sold Every Summer After to Berkeley, my husband was in quarantine in our house. Was working a full-time job running Refinery 29 Canada, which was a big job. I had a small child and who was just starting kindergarten. And then I gave birth, finished copy edits.
Gave birth
Four
to a
weeks,
human before the book.
yeah, and we sold Every Summer After. 4 weeks later, we sent the book to copy editing. So that's how fast Every Summer After was went through the cycle, which is for anyone who isn't familiar with publishing, that's insane.
Almost unheard
Um,
of.
yes, and then I gave birth, and a couple months later, it was like, okay, what's the next book? And my mental health was in the toilet, as it has been after both of my pregnancies.
Mhm.
I had insomnia all throughout my pregnancy, and after I gave birth, I had a migraine for all of my pregnancy. And after I gave birth for a year and a half, I had a headache every single day. Then there was the pressure that I put on myself of trying to please my publishing team. Every Summer After hadn't come out yet, but now I had a contract, an agent, an editor, a publishing team, and that was so heavy. That was just a really heavy load for me. And on this kind of book a year cadence, right? So
Mhm.
it's also the speed. And it was, there wasn't really a lot of time to kind of there was no time to sit back and be like, what do I want to do? Like, what am I doing now as an author?
Right.
And where do I want to go? And so it was a real struggle. The first draft was a real struggle. And I'm so proud of having muscled through that. Like the self-doubt was really difficult. And then the second draft, I threw out half the book. So there's two
Oh,
timelines. I threw out
hurts my heart.
the past timeline. We like reset that timeline in a different location. The characters were a different age. So it really underwent like a real barrage of edits to the benefit of the book. And I didn't want that experience again with my third book, in that not that it was a lot of work, but I didn't want to feel so heavy, which is
Mm.
something that is very hard to control. But I wanted a story that was fun. I wanted a writing experience that was fun. I had interviewed Taylor Jenkins Reid for the Canadian virtual launch of Carrie Soto is Back. And she had said it was the most fun she had ever have had writing a book. And I could feel that on the page. And I was like, I want that. Like, that is what I want. And I was just in my personal life, like I was putting on music in the morning to do the chores. I was like dancing around. And I came up with, I think the story of This Summer Will Be Different about these two characters who keep trying not to sleep together, but can't help but sleep together was inherently fun. There was lots of secrets.
A lot of fun, sexy scenes.
There is sexy scenes. There's lots of food. There's lots of
Mm.
like beautiful descriptions. And it just was so much lighter for me. And I think having gone through the struggle of Meet Me at the Lake and got to the end of that with a book made me feel like, okay, I can, if this is going to be very, very difficult, I will still get it done. And that kind of took a lot of the angst out of the experience for me. Yeah. And then One Golden Summer has been wonderful to work on.
That's so nice to hear that you had, because I think a lot of authors and people ascribe kind of writing with struggling writer. It has to be hard for you to be successful at it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
I don't
hear,
buy into that
no,
at all.
put on music, dance around, have fun with it because you're with that story for, it's kind of evergreen. I mean, you're going to be talking about every summer after for the next 20 plus years. Your very first
Yeah.
book, all these
Yeah.
books, you want to have fun with them because it's a topic that you carry for so long. It's not like a work project where, okay, it's done, tied up in a bow, you don't think about it again.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I also felt like I had really overhauled my life in that I was a journalist for 16 years and I really fell out of love with the business of journalism. And I was so proud of the work that I did, but the fun was gone. And I didn't want to be in a place with writing that I got to with journalism. And I'm not doing this thing so I can have a terrible work day and lots of stress and
Mhm.
beat myself. Like I've been in an industry that is really, really rough, and I don't want to feel that way again. Like that's not what I'm why I'm here. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of put as much joy as I can with all the hard work. And I love working. So that's a positive.
You are one of the hardest working people I know. I swear to God. Like, and how I think probably I would accredit, maybe you would too, your career as a journalist. You have such quick deadlines as a
Yeah.
journalist. So you are
Yeah.
used to hitting kind of targets, deadlines. You can work under a lot of pressure, which is kudos to you. Very impressive.
Thanks. Yes, I'm a hard worker. And I was brought up by parents who are extremely hardworking. So I think it's like something that's in my DNA.
There are worse genes to get from your parents.
Yes, true. I have those too.
Yeah. Yeah, true. It's a balance, a mix of both.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious though, kind of your pivoting career actually from journalism into writing. Was it like a chicken and the egg thing of where, okay, I'm not really happy in this career anymore? Or maybe I'm putting that on you. Maybe you were fine with it, but you'd always loved writing and you always wanted to write a romance novel. Or did you kind of reverse engineer it of saying, okay, I want to change. I really want to write a book. Let me look at what is marketable. What are the top five New York Times bestsellers? Okay, it's romance. We have Emily Henry, Colleen Hoover up there. That's what I got to write to kind of make it in this industry. Which one was it for you, or did it just kind of happen more organically?
It definitely was not the latter. Colleen Hoover was not dominating the bestseller list when I started writing every summer after. And Emily Henry's Beach Read came out that year, I think. Like it was a bit of a different space. However, I
Romance has
wasn't,
really taken off since the pandemic, even more so.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the writers were obviously there, but there has been this huge uptick for sure on the bestseller list. I did not study the bestseller list at all. I loved writing as a kid. I Fiction writing was my passion.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't think that was a job that you could have. And I was very concerned about making a living as like I was in grade 6 and I was very concerned about this. And I didn't know what to do in like what I should study in university because all I wanted to do was be a writer. And I thought, well, that's not for me. And so I studied journalism because I loved magazines. But I had it in the back of my head always that I would love to write a book.
Hmm.
Um, but it was one of those things I just didn't think I would ever do. And then in 2020, it was a very tough time at work, and I got off a very frustrating phone call. And in that moment, I decided that I was going to write a book, and finish it by the end of the year. And it was something I wanted to do only for myself. I was so burnt out, and I had given all of my creative energy to work over, the last 15 years. And I felt like I needed to take that back. I
Yeah.
needed to take back my creativity for myself. So I set this goal of writing a book, finishing it by the end of the year. And that was it. Like I did not intend, I didn't have a clue as to what I would do with it at that moment. And I had kind of discovered romance a couple of years earlier, and I knew that I wanted to have a book with a happy ending,
Mm.
because that's all I could tolerate in 2020. And
Yes.
the first thing I knew is I wanted to write about how I grew up. I wanted to write about being on the lake and a relationship between a cottager and somebody who lives there year round. I wanted to write about being a teenager, but I wanted to write a book for adults, and then I wanted to have a happy ending so that it all kind of like came together.
Yeah.
So that's how
Those were the
it.
sparks.
Yes,
The
yeah.
inspiration. I love hearing that because it's so interesting. Like you say, you've had kind of this dream trajectory for any writer
Yeah.
to ascend #1 New York Times bestseller, long list for Canada Reads. I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
And it's so remarkable. And your books are the reason why, too. They just connect
Thank
with
you.
readers on such a deep level. I mean, you're such a talented writer. So we're all
Thank
very happy
you.
that you started in the pandemic writing books.
Thank you.
And now that you're writing, though, do you find you almost miss that beginning of writing for yourself now that you have an audience?
No,
No.
because I really care about audience. When I didn't set out to publish a book or have any idea of how things
Hmm.
would go, and I'm so glad. Like I really wanted to do something that was just for myself. I wanted to write a book that I wanted to read.
Yeah.
But as an editor, as somebody who comes from, working at national magazines and newspapers and global media brands, audience is so important to me. I don't want to publish work that is not read. I want to connect with people. I want to open a large tent and invite as many people in as I can. That is essential to me.
I love that. Writers need readers.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I like the
do.
visual of a tent inviting everyone in too.
Yes, yeah.
I'm curious. You have this monopoly on summer. Three of your four books have summer in the title. You
Yes.
own that season. Carley Fortune owns summer.
I
And when
own
I think
summer,
of
I
summer,
own Canada. I don't know about this.
I'm saying it for you. When I think
Okay,
of
all
Carley
right.
Fortune, I think of summer. I
Yeah,
also think as an author, there's a seasonality to writing. So there's a season for
absolutely.
writing and drafting, a season for editing, a season for the marketing and the sales and going on tour. Which
Yeah.
season is the most fun for you?
Ooh, I don't know. I like them all. So fall is when I start drafting. I wouldn't describe that as fun.
Cozy
It's
though, cozy fall.
cozy. It's cozy. It can be fun. It's really heads down working. This is kind of a fun period now where I'm doing revisions on One Golden Summer, and things are a little bit slower than they will like pick up very, very soon. But it's a little bit slower. I've had some time where I'm not traveling. I do have a few events coming up and some travel. It's kind of a breath, which is much needed.
Mhm.
The pre-publishing time is terrible. Like I don't find that fun at all.
I'm with you.
Yeah, no, that's not fun. So I think like right now, this kind of like little breath is a good time.
So you prefer that more kind of editing the revisions versus looking at a blank page, fresh drafting.
It depends on the book. It depends on the book. I do. When I start a draft, I feel like I'm never going to finish this. There's so many words to write. I have a lot of anxiety. And then once I get into it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty fun. And now with revision, so I just filed my third draft. I'm pretty like I feel like ready to be done with it. So I'm getting to the end of like my not that it is done. I'm just like personally like and now I'm starting to think about ideas for my fifth book, and that's really exciting for me because because it's just I don't have to put any words on the page. I can just kind of think about what I want to do
And
um
dream.
and dream, and that is like that's kind of the spot I'm in right now, which is lovely.
That's so interesting. You're very much in between, like you're in the past. I mean, your book came out 3 months ago on May
Yeah.
7th. This summer will be different. You're still talking about that. I'm sure people are still interviewing you, asking about that. You're in edits, revisions for
Yes.
your fourth book, but
Yeah.
also thinking about your fifth book.
Yes.
That's so many hats to think about, which is fascinating.
Yes, I remember asking Karma Brown just after Every Summer After had come out. She was promoting a new book and like talking about old. I was like, how do you? I think there was, she was in. There were three books she was in different places with, and I was like, how do you possibly manage all this in your brain? And she's like, you just do. You'll do it. It's fine, and it's true. You do, and it does remind me a little bit of magazines in that you are in magazine publishing, you are putting an issue, you're often putting an issue in production, like you're putting that issue to bed.
Yeah.
You've got the next issue, which is like very like you're maybe doing edits, you're working with the photo editor, you're kind of like working on that, but you're not about to send it off soon. And then you've got the issues coming down the pipe and you're working. So right now, definitely working on like December, maybe January, like, and then you're working ahead. So it's kind of like that where you're holding all these different things in
Different.
your mind.
Right. Like in
Yeah.
magazine, you're in the summer, but you're thinking about Christmas
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
holidays or whatever.
Yes.
So you're trained for this. You're ready for this kind of
A little
juggling of
bit.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have this holy shit list for these holy shit moments that happen as an author. It's pinned to my
Yeah.
bulletin board right here. So holding
Oh,
your book cover for the first time, seeing your book in a bookstore, seeing
yeah.
someone reading it in the wild on the subway or an airplane. Those are the
Yes.
holy shit moments where you go, wow, my dream is coming to fruition.
Yes.
New York Times bestseller, number one, Oprah book club, or I guess it's Reese's book club now, or Good Morning America. All of these things are kind of holy shit moments. It's happening.
Got
What
it.
for you has been the biggest holy shit moment of your career? It could
Oh,
be multiple.
well, the first one was getting an agent. And I don't know if anything ever tops that, to be honest. It really was the moment where it was like, this is happening. Like, I am as close as I'll ever be to having a book published. Like, it just felt so real then, signing with my agent. So
And you
that
finally
was
have a teammate in it.
Yeah, and someone who really, I had great feedback from friends, but you have like a professional who believes in you.
Mhm.
And that really was, I remember talking, my agent's name is Taylor Haggerty, and I remember having this phone call with her, and I was starting to get teary because I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And she was my dream agent. So that was the first one, for sure. And then yeah, the New York Times bestseller list was a big one when Every Summer After got on there, and it's weeks and weeks after it was published, it hit the list, which is very unusual for a debut.
And it doesn't
I
get old when the your other books hit the list too.
No,
It's
it's very
nice.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's very, very exciting. And there was a point this summer for a few weeks where all three of my books were bestsellers on the Canadian
I saw
list.
that.
And that was really special too. And then I saw somebody reading my book in the wild for the first time when I was on book tour this year on a plane.
Oh, cool.
She was in the row across from me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I had to say something because I was so
Of
excited. Like
course.
I've waited for this moment, and I was like, can I please take your picture? I wrote that book. I'm so excited. And she was very kind and let me take her picture because that was like such an exciting moment. Yeah.
Did she recognize you from the back cover jacket or anything?
No, no, no.
Oh, that's so, probably you're like, I wrote that. That's my name.
That's what I did. I was like, excuse me, that's my book. Can I please take your picture?
Oh, that's so cool. Fortune is your last name.
It is,
But
yeah.
I would not ascribe your literary success to luck, even though your readers are called the Fortunates. I love that. What would you ascribe? I mean, you've said this trajectory, 4 books in 4 years. You've ascended to literary acclaim so quickly. What would you ascribe that success to?
I think, I mean, I have an amazing team, so wonderful, and like across the board in terms of my agents, in
Mhm.
terms of my editors, my in marketing, publicity, and then like even I hired an entertainment lawyer recently, and he's fabulous. And I've been so fortunate that truly that I have an amazing group of people that I work with, and that's really important to me. And they're also so good at their jobs. And I think the big, not the twist, but the thing that really made the difference for me with Every Summer After, and therefore the rest of my books, were the readers. The readers picked up that book and started screaming about it, and they forced it on their friends. They filmed TikToks, they were on Bookstagram, they were just shouting so loud about that book.
Mhm.
And whether they loved it or hated it, or it just went like wildfire. And it was very organic, like that kind. You can't manufacture that, and that really has made so much difference for me, because now I have a readership, an audience who, and many of them will follow me from book to book, and that is such a special, special thing.
Yeah, there's nothing that can replicate word of mouth marketing.
No.
Well, I have one more question,
Okay.
and then I would like to end with a quick little rapid fire.
Okay.
Okay. So my last one, I like to kind of future think. I think if you put things out in the universe, I don't know, it sounds a little woo-woo, but they will come true. You have achieved kind of the pinnacle of success in the literary world, but what for you is there still left to achieve? What does success look like for you looking into the next 5 years, 10 years? It can be
Yeah.
personally or professionally.
I want to keep writing, and I want to keep improving with every book. So that's part of when I'm kind of dreaming about my next book, like where do I want to kind of stretch and grow as a writer?
Mhm.
And so I'm kind of a lifelong learner and student, in that I always feel like I can do better and learn. And I think for me, that's a great way to be.
Best
And
way.
so I don't think I will ever feel comfortable resting on my laurels. But then I do feel like there is something out there for me, connected to books, that is more community based. And I've been kind of thinking a lot about how to build connection between readers and myself and books. And I don't know what that looks like yet, but it is something that I'm thinking about. And that's very vague, but yeah, I think I'm somebody who always likes a new challenge and learning new things. And I'm kind of thinking about what that looks like beyond writing.
But all kind of connected in this literary realm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to keep reading everything that you write and put out
Thank
there. Maybe you
you.
have a bookstore of your own or something. I don't know.
Maybe,
There's so many ways you
maybe.
could go with it, but
Yeah.
oh, well, I'll end with a little rapid fire.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, rapid fire. So pick your poison, your drink of choice while writing and drink of choice while celebrating.
Coffee while writing. I'm currently not drinking alcohol, so while celebrating is like a club soda and lemon.
So writing longhand, Scrivener, Word, or Google Doc.
Scrivener,
Your favorite writing haunt.
my office.
Your new office. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Is
my
it
new
done?
office. Well, it exists. It is not decorated. And also my backyard. I love writing in my backyard.
Outdoors and at Barry's Bay.
Yes.
Your favorite notebook slash pen.
Oh, okay. I have these notebooks called decomposition books,
Oh
which
yeah.
are ringed and lined that I really, really like. And pen, I have I think it's called an Energel, a Bic Energel, 0.7 millimeters purple ink. I believe that's what it's called.
Okay. Oh, you like the thin tip too, 0.7. I like that.
0.7. Yeah, it's either, I don't know if it's Bic or Pilot.
I like that you write in purple as well. And I wore purple. That
Often. Yeah, my favorite
that was
color.
wow. I did not even clue into that
It
actually.
is.
Your favorite romance trope?
Second chance.
Yeah, me too. That's my favorite. I think you already mentioned this, but your go-to author fit.
Well, I don't know if I have a go-to, Louise, because
Like a
I'm such a
suit.
magpie. I do like a suit. I like a bright suit.
I could see you wearing that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
your go-to fit. What book is on your bedside table or top of your TBR pile?
I'm reading my friend Sadia Ansari's memoir, which is called In Exile. Just came
It
out
just
and it
came out.
was fabulous. It's about her grandmother's secret life.
Oh, fascinating. I have to pick that up.
Yeah, it's very good.
If you weren't writing romance, what would you write?
Thrillers.
Author or book that influenced you the most or that you return to often?
The author and her book that influenced me the most is Ella Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables.
Oh,
Of
classic.
course.
There's so many
Yeah.
beautiful collectible editions now out too.
Yes.
I hope you have one of those.
I have several.
Several, I'm sure you have a whole shelf just dedicated to Anne of Green.
I literally do.
I love it. Okay, and then the best advice you would tell an aspiring writer or a fortunate who is hoping to see their own book on shelf someday.
To carve out time to devote to set a goal and for finishing a draft and carve out time to meet that goal and make your daily word count, if that's how you do it, achievable and just finish a draft without sweating it. Just finish the draft.
Yeah, you can't edit a blank page. I love it. Well, I'm curious now, do you have a word count each day that you have to hit, or just chapters that you're trying to get through when you're
I
drafting?
I used to, when I wrote Every Summer After, my word count was 388 words a day because I calculated how many days were left in the year and did the math. So I did 388 words a day. And with Meet Me at the Lake, it was 2,000 words a day. But then I dropped that. I've dropped it because I trust myself to get there now.
You
Yeah.
don't need to do 2,000 words a day is still pretty, it's good, ambitious.
Yes, it is. It is. I think sometimes too ambitious. So I try not to worry too much about the word count.
I think past success shows that you can do it. You can hit those deadlines.
I can do it. Yes.
Well, Carley, thank you so much for joining me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, and you are just amazing. Can't wait to keep reading everything that you put out there.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun.
Yay!